seeing a lot of people that are really responding to different structures, different ways of interacting with the culture, different ways of interacting with faith. So there's something about having an intentional community where you can go a little bit deeper, where it's more intimate because it's more small, and where you have the flexibility to be a bit more creative and also a bit of financial lightness with it too, so that you can try a few more things.
Our culture in general is in a great deal of turbulence, and this Western modern society is not going to last forever. And so I feel called to take part in the transition from this culture to the next culture, you know, to that more beautiful world our hearts know is possible, and to get on the ground and active with our hands and with our hearts in neighborhoods, you know, confronting power, and take part in that transition is what I feel called to do. And that means getting out of the church buildings and not just surviving in, you know, but getting out and taking part.
Welcome to Belmont House.
The sign was here before we actually got here, but we call it Belmont House because it dates us.
One of the ways we wound up in Victoria is that we've had a long-term relationship with one of the folk who used to live here. He emailed us when we were in a state of transition saying, what's next? Where should we land? And as the Spirit will, we landed in Victoria.
You know, part of our philosophy is about listening to what God is already doing in the neighborhood. And so for us, there's so much going on here. And it's not that we're coming in with this colonial mentality of like, you know, we need to save the neighborhood or make it better. We're just like, it's amazing. Like, you know, there's a lot of community here. I know that we've struggled as people who aren't ordained, how to fit into a model of church which, you know, there isn't any sort of ways to get sort of into the decision-making bodies of church. There was a lot of growing pains as we figured out just what kind of container do we need as a new expression or a fresh expression of church.
On each of these 4 posts, or sections of fence, we did an Advent fence. So the first week was what hope? Yeah. And so what gives you hope?
Oh, and you put that out here?
Yeah, and so each week we added a new thing. So the last week we did a collage.
Oh, that's awesome.
The second one was a map of the world with sticky notes to pray for places in the world. That was up for peace.
I think what we need from the wider church are deep supporters, because it's one thing to have a lot of people who say, this is great, this is exciting, you know, and that's all fine, but knowing that there's people who kind of have our back, knowing that there's people who are willing to say, okay, that's not quite by the rule book, but we're gonna look the other way just for a little while we figure it out together.
When you think about being a part of social justice, when this is the place you walk the streets of, when this is the fabric of your life, then you can speak to that area of justice in a way that is authentic and real, and hopefully will be a piece of the change that you can be a part of.